All right, please begin.
So welcome to our Wednesday webinar series. And today we're going to talk about application tips, letters of recommendation. So my name is Julianne Cartwright-Traylor, and I'm Associate Director of International Programs here at the University of San Francisco School of Law. I'm a political scientist by training. I've been in higher education for more than 16 years now. I benefit from my academic background and experiences in advocacy work domestically in the US and abroad. I have degrees in government and political science with studies in international human rights law at the UC Berkeley School of Law and the International Institute of Human Rights in Strasbourg, France. I've been an international visiting scholar at the International Peace Research Institute in Oslo, Norway for 5 years, working on human rights, women, and peace issues, during which time I was a consultant for the United Nations, working on right to food issues. My international advocacy work and experiences include being an official accredited non-governmental organization representative for human rights advocate and leading delegations to UN meetings in New York City, Geneva, Switzerland, Durban, South Africa, and Beijing, China. I've held leadership roles in non-governmental organizations such as Amnesty International, the Women's Intercultural Network, and Human Rights Advocate. So I consider my position here at USF and the LLM program an ideal one for me to combine my background with working to recruit, admit, support LLM students while they are here and as graduates.
Wonderful. Now I remember why I do not like going second after Julianne's impressive background. My name is Oliveri Ivanovich. I'm the director of the LLM and master's programs. I work with Julianne to oversee our degree programs. And we work with students from the point that they're thinking about their application process all the way through, and we stay connected with them as alumni. By profession, I am an attorney. I obtained my LLM degree in taxation. I did my JD here in the US, so I'm US educated. But when I went through my LLM experience, I had a real passion for the overall student experience. So my goal and my role now that I'm full-time in higher ed is to help you and other applicants through the process. Julianne and I will always tell you that our job is not to build a huge class. USF is a smaller school by design. We're never going to try and recruit 1,000 students or 100 students even. We're looking for the right size class and the right students for our program. And we want to make sure we're the right fit for you. It's a mutual relationship. So when the pandemic hit, Julianne and I were, grounded in San Francisco, so to speak, unable to connect with students. And we thought about this workshop series as an opportunity to share some of the things that we are able to share with students when we are traveling and meeting you in your home country or at universities across the US. So we would be remiss if we didn't at least give a very brief overview of our programs here at the University of San Francisco. The focus today is on letters of recommendation, so I'll just say very quickly that we offer 2 LLM degrees, a general LLM in international transactions and comparative law, and an intellectual property and technology law. Both programs will qualify you for bar exams, most popular being California or New York. There are merit scholarships available for both. And we are located in the heart of San Francisco, right next to Golden Gate Park and about 15 minutes from downtown. So with that, I'll turn it over to Julianne to start with the first part of our presentation, which is why regarding your letters of recommendation. Julianne, what's the why?
So the why is letters of recommendation play a key role during the admission review process by the members of our LLM admissions committee. They are a way for the members of our committee to get to know you as they take a holistic approach to reviewing your application file. A letter of recommendation is a formal letter used to describe qualities, strengths, skills, and characteristics of our applicants. They are also used for decision-making purposes for our scholarship. All of our applicants are considered for merit-based scholarships, and letters of recommendation play a role in determining the level of scholarships that we award our applicants. Keep in mind, we do take a holistic approach to reviewing all of our documents and paperwork that we require for a complete application. So we look at your transcripts, your personal statement, your CV, resume, and your letters of recommendation. And so now, Olivera, you can tell us about the who.
Yes, so we wanted to cover who you should ask for a letter of recommendation, because this is the area where we seem to get a fair number of questions. Julian, I want to make sure, please hold that you guys are seeing the actual presentation. Let me just reshare my screen.
Right, yeah.
All right, are you able to see this screen?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. So one of the things that we wanted to discuss is who you should be asking. Generally, the best letters of recommendation are going to be written by people who are familiar with you personally. They're familiar with your intellectual abilities. They know your work, your accomplishments, and they can speak maybe a little bit to your actual personality traits as well. The one thing I want you to keep in mind is that there is a school by school approach when you are applying. Not every school is going to have the same requirements regarding your letter of recommendation. So the first step for you in determining who to ask is to read your application instructions very thoroughly. Then, schools will generally may have more than one type of recommender. So what I'm referring to is an academic versus a professional letter of reference, depending on your experience, depending on the school. An academic is someone that understands your academic background, that has seen you in your studies, such as a professor, maybe a research supervisor, a faculty advisor. Some students, if you've worked very closely with the dean or someone at the university that can speak to your academic abilities. How do you approach a difficult case in class or a difficult concept that you have not encountered before? The other type is a professional reference, and that would be somebody with whom you've worked, an employer, a work colleague, maybe where you have worked directly on a project with them and they can speak to how you handled that project. A supervisor at a professional job, a supervisor at an internship. When we say professional, we are not restricting it to generally to simply paid position. Internships and externships certainly would fall under the category of professional. I want to make a note a little bit here about the title of your recommender. Title to admissions professionals is much less important than personal knowledge. Do not pick someone based on their status alone. So oftentimes we get the dean or of the law faculty versus a professor. Well, if you had a class, if the dean taught and supervised you or something, then that's fine. But if the dean doesn't know you in an academic capacity and your professor does, the professor will be a stronger writer for your letter of recommendation. And another example would be the partner at the law firm versus an attorney who supervised you. The partner may not be as familiar with your work ethic, the supervising attorney would. So with that, let's turn to what they should write about you.
So what should your recommenders write about you? We look at the relationship to the applicant established in who that Olivera just spoke about. Someone who can attest to your analytical skills, your critical thinking skills about an issue, how you approach a legal issue. And as Olivera mentioned, for example, a professor might talk about your academic promise. Do they think that you can succeed in our program based on your work at your law school? Qualities such as a team player or as an independent thinker, as one who can work independently on a project, an issue, a case. Do you ask questions? What is your nature in terms of asking questions of the professor about a particular issue? We always say that it would be great if your recommender can give examples when possible. The members of the admissions committee love to read stories, love to read examples of what the recommender is writing about. So a story, and we have a number of recommenders who will talk about a particular case that the law firm or their organization was working on, and how our applicant worked on that, or a professor and a student working on a project with them. And so we wanted to hear about what they have to say about skills and whether or not they think that you can succeed in our LLM program. Things to avoid: letters of recommendation from personal friends, from classmates, from family members. Those are definitely things to avoid. We want to see letters of recommendations, either professional letters of recommendations or academic letters of recommendation. And so now to how do you submit those letters of recommendation, Olivera?
Well, and actually how to ask for those letters of recommendation, because what we have learned over time is that it's not only important who you ask, but how you ask and what expectations you set. So let's talk a little bit about making that request. To the extent possible in our hybrid world today, I think it's very important first that you make the request face-to-face if possible, or via Zoom. And the reason I say that is because I think you can learn a lot about the strength of the letter you're going to get based on the nonverbal reactions, the nonverbal cues you get when you make the request. We always recommend that if you have your application ready, your other documents, that you provide your recommender with those documents. So maybe it's your CV or statement of purpose. Maybe you're going to submit them a description of the program. Not all LLM programs are the same. It will help them understand the version of yourself that you're sharing with the application committee, the admissions committee, and it may help them highlight the same set of skills. I actually was recently discussing this topic with Julianne, and we were recently reviewing some thoughts shared by some of our colleagues. And one thing that one of our colleagues said, they have been in admissions probably a decade for LLM programs. They've taught overseas, and they often write letters for their students. And they shared that they always ask their students to submit to them a one-page summary document. And that document should include things like, why do you want to study in the US? And what are your goals after the degree? And what are, if they were a professor, what were your takeaways from the course? What did you enjoy about the professor's course? We had another colleague who said, you know, I often think it's okay for the applicants to say to their recommender, hey, these were some of the accomplishments that I recall from my course or from my project with you, and highlight some of the things that they want to highlight in their letter. And I would personally add, if there's a weakness in your application and the person who's writing your letter can address that and show us that despite maybe a lower grade in this class, you have great analytical skills, or you are comfortable tackling a problem, or you're a self-starter, something like that, then have them address it. The more honest you are with your recommender, and the more information you provide them, as we've shown you through a couple of examples from what our colleagues are recommending, I think the stronger your letter is going to be. And so with that, let's talk a little bit about when, Julianne, how to make that request, because it's an important process.
Yes, the when. When should you ask for a letter of recommendation? The first point that we always emphasize is give your recommender a reasonable amount of time to furnish that letter for you. You have to realize that everybody has a very busy schedule. And if you're asking one of your professors or a managing partner at your firm to do a letter of recommendation, others are doing likewise. So what we say is start early. If you're thinking about applying for the LLM program for next year, think about whom you want to write a letter for you, given what Olivera just talked about. Start early. You will probably want some of those, for example, 2 people write multiple letters for you for the schools that you are applying to. So think about that. And as Olivera was talking about, we were reflecting on our personal experiences with students and former employees and writing them, because both of us do that for our former students and former employees. So give your recommenders a timeline. Let them know when the letters are due. And as I say, work backwardly. And reinforcing what Olivera just said, give them as much information as possible about what you're applying for. Give them websites, give them links to information. And as she mentioned, give them your most current CV or resume. I've had some students even send me drafts of their personal statements that they're going to submit for a job or what have you. So the more you assist your recommender, the better and the stronger your letter of recommendation will be. And so now where to submit these letters of recommendation.
Yes. So every school, every law school is going to have an application process that may vary from significantly or just in small ways from other schools. Check the website. Like I said, make sure you understand the application instructions and the process for submitting. Are you applying, for example, through LSAC? Does your letter need to go through the Law School Admissions Council for processing and to be added to your application file? That takes time, and that's something that you want to factor in with your when. If you're going to apply directly to the school, how, do they need to verify that letter in any sort of way before they add it to your application file? And what's the process there? Should your recommender submit it if you're applying directly to the school to you or directly to the school? That's another question that you need to ask. Should it be on letterhead? Should it be a wet ink signature? We're so virtual these days. Some people are simply typing a signature versus an actual ink signature in a scanned document. So those things are really important. If your recommender is not writing in English, do you need to have it certified and translated? Well, more likely than not, yes, but that is also something you need to consider as part of the process. So do make sure that you are checking the instructions for the schools that you're applying to and factoring in any of those processing times so that your application can be reviewed early in this cycle. So with that, we've covered the basics, the who, what, where, when, and how about letters of recommendation. We now have some time for questions. So I'm going to do two things. I'm going to put up our contact information here on the screen so that you are able to get in contact with us following this presentation with any questions that you may have. I'm also going to put in the chat our contact information so it's easier to copy. Julian and I welcome appointments to review your application materials, and we hope to see you all apply to USF, but we hope that you're the right fit, and if you're not sure, reach out to us. So with that, I'm going to stop the recording. I'm going to thank everybody for coming, but we will stick around for questions for those who have questions about the process.